Welcome to Hoopernomics, where we talk everything salary cap, CBA, roster construction, draft picks, you name it. If it requires the front office, we talk about it. So if that interests you, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. And if you cannot tell by the thumbnail title of this video, we're going to quickly talk about Jalen Duren. I am going to talk about all these teams at some point, the whole NBA, and we're going to talk about like what their offseason will look like. But I definitely want to hit these hot topics as far as what Jalen Duren could possibly get paid, because we know he did not play to his full potential against the Detroit Pistons. In my very first video, I talked about how the NBA has a Jalen Suggs problem, which means all I was saying is that teams should not have to feel like they have to overpay to keep somebody just because they drafted them. Now, you got to understand your roster before you do it. I feel like with the Orlando Magic, one big problem they had was you're paying Paolo, you're paying Franz. Does Jalen Suggs really need that amount of money? You know, who knows? Only time will tell. So far, to me, it does not look that way. But, you know, each their own. I'm definitely open to differing opinions. But in this case, we're talking about Jalen Duren. And should the Detroit Pistons sign him? Now, I think it goes without saying they should sign him. I know some crazy Laker fans that say we're going to get Jalen Duren, which they think they're going to get everybody. But I think they should sign him. Do you sign him because I think we don't know what team he's going to make. We don't know if he's going to make a, second team All NBA, third team All, we don't know. But the idea is that he will, which will allow him to eventually make 30% of the cap, which roughly is like a 5-year, $287 million deal, roughly around almost $50 million a year. I don't know. That's going to be very, very interesting for the Detroit Pistons. I think they should sign him, but I don't think they should sign him to that much. Now, once again, that is what they could sign him to. They do not have to sign him to that. I think that they should be able to talk him down in terms of price. I feel like if you're Jalen Duren's camp, this is what the Pistons should do. As long as the money is more than what another team can offer him, I think that you should be fine. Jalen Duren, even though he did not play well during the playoffs, I think you have to think about who else is on your team. And right now it's just Cade. Cade is your one true star. Asar looks like a really good player. I think Ron Holland is a good player that you would want to keep in most scenarios. But if you want to get better on a cheap dime, then maybe you think about moving off Ron Holland. Other than that, I'm looking at the salary cap. Their sheet looks pretty good. I mean, you have some guys you can move like Duncan Robinson potentially. I don't think they'll move Isaiah Stewart, but he has, this upcoming season, and then the year after that is a team option. So he could technically be a free agent after this upcoming season. You look at Karis LeVert, who I think you could easily move, and he's an expiring. I also look at Paul Reed, who's an expiring, who's not, Paul Reed's only like 30% of the cap, but still, you have a bunch of guys that are movable pieces. I think the biggest one is like buying into Cade, which you've already done, because next year he makes $50 million, and then Jalen Duren obviously is going to start making a large amount of money. Now, another NBA team can only offer Jalen Duren, if for whatever reason he does not sign with the Detroit Pistons, another team can only offer him 4 years, $177 million, roughly around that. If I'm the Pistons, I shouldn't be worried, and if I'm Jalen Duren, I'm taking what the Pistons are offering. I'm taking because the standard rookie extension is he could go for 5 years, roughly $230 million. So that's roughly $50 million less than if he were to make an all NBA team. So this was around $40 million a year. I feel like for Jalen Duren's age, for him to probably want, he can probably get himself another contract. He knows, he and his camp knows that he did not perform in back-to-back playoffs. I don't know. I feel as though I think them reuniting should be simple. I think the money is where it's going to get difficult, but I don't think it should take that long. And I don't think it's going to be as bad as people say it is. I've seen people talk about how they could potentially split it. He could potentially be traded. And this is not the crazy Laker fan saying that. I don't think that's the case. I think more so they're going to figure it out. This is going to take some time for them talking. If I'm the Pistons, I'm re-signing him. I'm probably giving him, $220 maybe. I'll even go up to maybe $230. But I'll see if I can do $220 to say, look, You and Cade, y'all play well, during the regular season. You obviously need to figure out during the postseason. You're only 22, 23 years old, so there's time. We've seen you, get better, and that's the one thing I say about Jalen Duren. He's gotten better every single year. It's just the playoffs back-to-back has been rough for him. I think that you take that gamble. And as I talked about before, I believe last video, which not too many people watched it, but last video, I talked about Mike Conley and how much Mike Conley meant to the Memphis organization. And that's why he got his record-breaking deal, which at the time it was like for $30 million or whatever it was. Jalen Duren, how much do you mean to the Pistons? The Pistons are not in a position that they're not like, I can't think, like the Warriors, who are a team that normally is good, had a bad season. Jimmy Butler was out. We have a lottery pick. Pistons were the number 1 seed in the East. They still almost made it to the conference finals despite being in back-to-back 7-game series. I think that you're willing to take that risk. Jalen Duren means a lot to that. He meant a lot to you winning those 60 games. I think it's just working with him and helping him understand what it takes for him in the playoffs. We do have seen plenty of players be so good in the regular season and can never figure it out in the playoffs. I just don't feel that way about Jalen Duren. I don't know if I can ever say he'll ever be a playoff riser. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not saying that, yes or no. I don't know. But I am saying that I do feel like, in the upcoming years, we're going to get better performances than what we got these past playoffs. So if you're the Pistons, I think it goes without saying, you sign Jalen Duren. I think the money part obviously is where it gets a little confusing. But if you're Jalen Duren, you got to understand, where they're coming from. And even then, if they pay you, you get an extra year, and you're making roughly, if they do the 220, which I don't even, that's not like too far off. I mean, that's much better than 287, but that's not much far off from like what the standard could be, which is the standard rookie extension, which is 240. But I give you 220, you still get the 5 years. And then that still sets you up to make, a big payday later, or we can extend you later, however the course may be. But I still feel like if you're Jalen Duren, you gotta understand. Look, even if they gave me the 220, I'm making $50 million I would have made with any other team, and then I get that extra year. So you get the stability, you also get the money, and you're so young that if you handle what you're supposed to handle, you'll be 27, 28 at your next contract. You can get whatever the cap is then. So I think that's what you keep in mind. And I'm Jalen Duren. I mean, that's an easy way. Banking on myself and still making $220 million is a great situation to be in. So I feel like that's probably best bet. Who knows? We'll see. But I think 220 will probably be the safe spot.